Okay, good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all here today. So we've got 25 minutes, so I'm going to kick off quickly. It's a pretty big topic to cover, and I do hope to take some questions from the audience as well. So can we just do very quick introductions, please, if we can work our way down?
Sure. Russell Kelly, Head of Advisory, KPMG.
Jonathan Daglish, Head of the Intelligence Service Centre.
I'm Kate Sims, Head of the AML CFT Policy Office within Cabinet Office.
Good morning, I'm Mark Lewin. I'm the Chief Officer for the Department for Enterprise.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning. So this topic, as Phoebe mentioned, is we're going to look at considering the key challenges or headwinds facing the Isle of Man in the coming 5 years, but also importantly to think about opportunities that we may and advantages that we may be able to look towards, thinking about strengths and weaknesses of the island. So I'd like to come to you first, JD, if that's okay. Your key role is to sort of identify risk and opportunity. So I thought I'd kick off with you. If you could just give us a high-level kind of idea of where you feel the risks and opportunities are for the island.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So there are a number. So we've had a look at it. There's a few areas. So a key one is skills. So access to the right talent and the people to actually fulfill certain roles. We've already heard about AI, and that is a growing area. So how do you get the right people for those sorts of roles? And as an island, one thing that is very apparent is transport links. So the interdependency on sea and air links. We saw the Flybe collapse at the start of this year, the impact that had on not just the island, but other islands around the UK. Housing, that is also an opportunity and a risk. So you think the access to housing for residents for the growth of the population, but comparative to other jurisdictions, the cost of living is actually far lower here. So that's a great opportunity. The environment we've heard a lot about already, but the environment isn't just ESG focused. It's also about the collective family environment of an island and how you can come together and actually exploit opportunities collectively. And finally, international issues. So the world is so interconnected currently that something happens in one part of the world, as you saw with the Ukraine crisis, it has a knock-on effect to all of us. So that resiliency around events around the world.
Thank you very much, JD. We've sorted that out then, haven't we? So what I'd like to do, perhaps let's focus on skills to start with. It's a very hot topic within Chamber. It's something that we're very aware of, is top of our manifesto at the moment. So I'll come to you, Mark, if that's okay. So in what ways could the Isle of Man attract and retain a younger workforce to try and balance our demographic profile on the island?
Thank you, Bex. And I guess just to start with, just to say that, Jason, that's such a passionate, enthusiastic topic, and that talks directly to this challenge. We've been saying for many years now as government and as industry, that's our number one area of concern: skills, attracting, retaining. So the people we've got, making sure there are opportunities. It's a great problem to have in a sense that we've got businesses out there looking regularly to grow the workforce. And again, I think that the topic we've talked about and how AI can play a real part in that, digital skills, capabilities, and actually taking that to the masses so everyone's aware is a really key part. What we also see is when we do things really well, and we talked again about the biosphere, the things we stand for on our island actually attracts people from all around the world. Jason's again an example of that, but there's lots of people, some people here today, lots of people we meet regularly that have come here because of what the Isle of Man stands for, what it has to offer. We've got to do more of that. I think the skills board, so it's been touched upon before, but for those that don't know, so we now have brought together key stakeholders. We have Chamber of Commerce, really appreciate that, calling out what the needs are of industry today and into the future. We have Treasury, so they're particularly looking at how we make sure we maximise participation of everyone that wants to work, can work, whether that's people coming back to work, staying and work longer, or indeed when they leave school, leave education. We have education that's looking around the training, and that's about, again, today, but also new training models, and touched on some of that before. And from a Department for Enterprise, helping to support all of that, but increasingly also, it's about helping make sure the island can attract some of those key skills where there are gaps, where we can't get it from our existing labour pool or existing society. How do we bring people in? It has to be the right people. They have to be able to contribute positively to society, and we're just going to keep working at that.
Thank you, Mark. So, Russ, from your perspective, what can we do, government and industry, to attract these skilled workers to the island?
Well, I think we have to start at the education level locally. There's jobs that people will do who are at school today that we haven't even thought of. AI, as Jason set out, will transform the sort of jobs people do. So we do need to invest locally in education, and that's not just school level education. That is going to be throughout the sort of working population, because as AI comes in and it changes role profiles, we're going to end up having to offer the opportunity for people to upskill, not just in the areas of utilizing AI, but also replacing those roles. They're going to have to learn new roles. But, we basically have to create an environment that allows people's business to flourish here. And we need to go to the sort of environment that probably people thought we had 10, 20 years ago, where we moved very quickly in terms of incentivization, regulation, and access to decision makers.
Thank you, Russ. I've just had an interesting question coming through Slido on a risk that we haven't identified on our list today, and that is it the lack of an Isle of Man ESG strategy a risk where there is little progress currently? I believe there's an ESG session coming up after this, so thank you for that question. Who would like to answer that?
If I can certainly say again, it's a topic that is regularly raised. It's at all 4 boards, so across, certainly from a Department for Enterprise perspective, it's woven into all those conversations, and clearly everyone in the room will recognise from a business perspective, it's also in all the conversations at your boards. There is work specifically about answering that. So should we have a national ESG strategy that tries to be everything for everyone? Or actually, is it more nuanced around certain areas? So sustainable finance is doing some work, particularly around our existing financial services industry and what that needs to look like, and about the standards and around what it can, needs to do, but also then how that's an economic opportunity in terms of products and in terms of providing solutions to that sector. That's completely different to some of the challenges that we'll be talking about in our manufacturing industries, producing industries around within the business age. As an example, we had the Destination Day with a visit the other day. Whole topic, keynote speech was just around sustainable tourism. So there's definitely lots of things happening. I think the question as to whether we have a national thing is probably still outstanding. But again, go back to what said with Jason, the biosphere is one of those golden threads that goes right through all those conversations. And I think there is general recognition with industry and within government that it's so important to us. We probably can do a lot more with it, and it's going to be even more relevant over the next number of years.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the panel have anything to add on ESG? So I just want to move on to housing, and skills and attracting people to the Isle of Man. Housing is intrinsically linked to that as well. Affordability and availability of housing is a really persistent issue. How do you see that affect when you're trying to bring new workers to the Isle of Man?
I'll pick that one up. I grew up here and I've lived here most of my life, and in the last 6 months or so I've relocated to Jersey. And I would say that we're in a much better and stronger position here than we are in some of the similar jurisdictions. We do find it much easier to bring people in here because there is the availability of housing on an affordable basis. I know a lot of people think that's not the case, but when you're looking at sort of £1,800, £2,000 a month for a 1-bed in Jersey, it's really, really hard to attract, and then even harder to retain young skilled workers into those areas. So I think we need to make a little bit more of what we've got, and we have got space, we have got sort of affordable housing, but what we need is quantity of that housing, and that requires developments to be supported where MDC are doing things to really let them push on and get on with it.
Thank you, Russ. And actually, while we're just discussing MDC and the progress around the housing, just want to read a comment and put it to you, Mark, that's come in on the Slido. The Isle of Man has a lot of things to attract people, but getting and retaining young people is really hampered by the cost of housing. Government acknowledges this, but real change needs to happen or we will continue to fail in new policy. So obviously Russ has identified that actually we are in a good position here in the Isle of Man. We've got the space. So how are the plans progressing in that way?
Just certainly recognising that comment, that question is absolutely recognised by government. I think, as I said before about skills, it comes up all the time in terms of the key issue. and housing increasingly comes up as one of the challenges in terms of people either retaining here, the people we have, young people, young families, or indeed people coming here. So there's lots of conversations again, there's lots of political recognised in terms of the need for more work in this space. The Housing Community Board was a key kind of response to that. I think government does some stuff, does it directly. So MDC, absolutely, physically building in our town centres, regenerating sites, nurses' home, 34 units, Westmoreland Road, another 144. Also, government makes it available. So for the Department for Enterprise, the Island Infrastructure Scheme, we announced at the government conference 3 big schemes in that space where we provide some grant support, but it's private sector capability, private sector funding. And that, 2 of those schemes are principally about residential and are in our towns and cities, again, bringing people to live back in the towns. There are indirect things we need to do as well. So making sure the environment's right, planning process, the reforms in that space. Again, from a Department for Enterprise, Andy mentioned this before, but what we can see in the pipeline already on applications we've commented on, there are more than 1,000 homes at various different stages of either just being approved or in early stages or in the planning system at the moment. So government has an absolute responsibility to make sure that the supply side is coming up. And the Housing Communities Board, and it's been recently reinvigorated again, can touch on some of those areas around affordability, around equity, around making sure, it is fair. And as Russ said, though, the one thing we have space, we have a political ambition to support that population growth with economically active population. And it's not just all about Greenfield. It can't be around Greenfield. It is back to our towns, regeneration, and there's lots of things happening in that space.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to just move on from housing as we don't have 13 minutes left. So I'd like to come to you, Kate, if that's okay. Thinking about international challenges we have facing us in the next few years. A key challenge is money vow that the island will be facing. So how are we preparing for this? And what do you believe are the island's strengths and weaknesses in this area?
As some of you may be aware, we will be evaluated. We're looking at the end of 25, possibly beginning of 26. So it will be upon us before we know. And as part of that, we have created a substantial programme of works. Rather than working in silo, which is what's happened historically, we're now all working collaboratively across government, across all agencies. Each agency has a very substantial action plan which identifies all of the issues that we have. We, as the AML CFT policy officer, responsible for coordinating all of that and identifying any issues, gaps, and making sure that we fill those so that when we are evaluated, hopefully we would have covered everything that's needed. But what we realised as part of that was that we didn't have enough contact and involvement with industry. And so as part of that, we have, again, created a programme of engagement, which is currently ongoing, and it will continue to be ongoing. And the intention of that is to bring on industry on board with us so that we're all on one level playing field. We all know kind of the position that we're in and the work that's being done. And the intention really is to make sure that we have a one island approach so that when we're evaluated, everyone can come at it from the same place. The intention is, as I said, it's we're all in it together. We have to be in it together because if we don't, it just won't work. And that's a risk. So we have to make sure that everyone's on board, that everyone is fully aware of what's going on and what's required of us. And hopefully throughout time and throughout the programme of engagement and the programme of works that we will have that in place. And at the end of it, the hope is that we will have a successful, well-regulated jurisdiction where we more than welcome good business, but we have a hostile approach to financial crime. And of course, one of the biggest risks if we don't do that is that the island is grey listed. In turn, there's a big knock-on effect to that, not just reputational, but of course, economical as well. We work very closely with our counterparts in the CDs, but not just in CDs, across the world really. I'm in contact with equivalents from many other jurisdictions. I work very closely with the Home Office in the UK, very closely with my counterparts, as I've said, in the CDs. We are very patiently waiting to see what comes from Jersey and Guernsey's evaluation, albeit that they're on the existing round, and we will be on the new round, so the kind of level will be upped, we're sure. But it will be interesting to see what comes from that. I have spoken to some of my colleagues already, and we're incorporating some things into our programme of works. But we're hoping to learn and take information back from them to make sure that we can do everything we possibly can. We're welcoming kind of interaction from everyone. We have political support, key stakeholder support. We have numerous boards now that are responsible for this, steering groups, Financial Crime Strategic Board, and of course we have the political approval as well, as I've said. So we want industry to come to us. From a digital perspective, we absolutely need to make sure that we have all of the requisite programs in place that we need to make sure that we are using the information. Data, as Jason said, we're all about data. So it's making sure that we can collate all of that data and have the best systems, processes, policies in place to ensure that all of that is consistent across the board, that consistency is key, and that we're working collaboratively. And if any of you have any questions, the AML CFT Policy Office are more than willing to speak to you about them and to speak to you individually or attend sessions with you to make sure that everyone is on board and that we're taking into account everyone's thoughts.
Thank you, Kate. And somebody's popped up on Slido, how can the island best prepare for the Moneyval assessment? Obviously, you've explained that you're going to reach out. Someone said, can we use AI to help? So we'll be coming to Jason to make sure that the AI just does it all for us.
I will definitely be going to Jason.
JD or Russ, do you see changes to the international tax environment as a challenge or an opportunity?
I'll comment on that. Just before we go to that, I think we can't underestimate the impact of a negative Moneyval evaluation on the island. You'll see Cayman's just come out of grey listing, but anecdotally, the GDP impact there was estimated around 8 or 9%. Jason talked about growing our GDP on the Isle of Man by, I can't remember what the number was now, 10. That's wiped out potentially. So making sure we invest as we're doing, as Kate set out, and really support the FSA and its initiatives is quite important on that. I think turning to tax, obviously, the global environment is changing, Pillar 2 coming in. It actually gives a fantastic opportunity for the Isle of Man to actually generate revenue and to trap that tax revenue here rather than having the tax revenue being paid somewhere else. And making sure we get the structures right and we get the sort of interaction with other major economies right is absolutely key to that. But it does provide us with an opportunity.
Yeah, and I'll just add as well, whenever you think about a risk to a location, they're never unique to that one location. It's very rare that they are. So being able to navigate those risks creates opportunity. So looking at competitors in the market where businesses may interact with other jurisdictions, if you can navigate tax in positive ways, Russell says, that is then a very big opportunity to actually generate revenue and grow the economy here.
Thank you. Interesting question here. Don't know who's going to answer it. It's disappeared. Come back. Where's it gone? No, it's gone. Ignore me. It's disappeared. Oh, here it is. Oh, it's gone again. What effect? Good Lord, someone's. What effect will a change in the UK political landscape (Labour) have on the Isle of Man?
I guess I can certainly say it's something we think about regularly, as and when it becomes a little bit clearer in terms of timescales. There are already various structures at work, and obviously we link through the Ministry of Justice into the UK. We sit on and we get involved in lots of cross-party politic groups, but as it becomes clear in some of the manifestos that come out, we can run some more real-life scenarios around what might be a response, whether it be around taxation, typically, around some of the social policies, etc. So we watch very carefully. What I would say, and we've got decades of experience of navigating the course, depending on whichever political party is, and often there's quite a bit of rhetoric at the front in terms of the election, but then afterwards, common sense prevails, and it's in everyone's interests to work together to make sure that the British Isles family are very collectively very positive. We are a small part of that bigger family, and so I have every confidence we will navigate. There'll be some opportunities in that. Lots of conversations already around tax planning, around non-doms, around what's going to happen in the UK around that. We're attractive in some of that space, clearly, from a relocation perspective, and there will be some challenges, but we will seek to watch, to engage, and to navigate as we always do.
Thank you, Mark. Just in the last 5 minutes, I'd like to just turn to environment and energy and self-sufficiency for the island. JD, I'll come to you. Do you think that the island has really capitalised on our UNESCO biosphere status?
Great question. I think you can always do more, but to do more, it has to start at the top. And we've seen already in the open address and what Jason talked about, but for a lot of these things, it's the top-down approach, leading by example, filtering through to people who are in this room and others across the island. In an ever-changing world where there's greater expectations on businesses to be more aligned to environmental issues, being a world leader and somebody who's at the forefront of that is only an opportunity, particularly when look at other jurisdictions, other locations around the world who don't have UNESCO status. Obviously, it's up for renewal in 2026. But being able to proceed in that way would only create further opportunities. The challenge really is, how well is that known outside of the locations around us, so the British Isles? How well can you actually capitalise and spread that world to attract businesses and opportunities from the global economy?
Yeah. I need an extra pair of hands here. Russ, thinking about the sort of environment for business, where do you see the island's advantages in that area?
I think one advantage we have, as I alluded to before, is the space and the ability for people to come here and develop and grow a business. We are relatively low cost base compared to similar jurisdictions, which I think is very helpful. And we do have a good sort of mix of skills, particularly around fintech. We have really strong financial services regulation that's so far been acknowledged to be strong. Yet coming out of the gaming sector, we have some very strong digital skills, and we've seen some fantastic fintechs actually start up and grow, and actually in some cases exit and generate significant returns here in the Isle of Man using those skills. So it's making sure we sort of promote the success stories. And I think we've got the launch for the Innovation Challenge again later. I think that's a tremendous way to try and raise our profile in that space.
Yeah.
Could I just add, Bex, just in terms of business environment more broadly, just a reflection of today, and again, the conversation, the fact that there are business-led executive agencies across government that are sitting, talking about ideas, talking about challenges, and actually making decisions on where your industries want to be in the future and how the Isle of Man government needs to respond and create that environment. I think that's hugely compelling, and I thank everyone that's involved in that, because simply put, these ideas, government doesn't create the ideas, government responds to. And in a small jurisdiction, we have so much participation, community, business, social, to be able to lift that up and say, this is what we need to do with a clear voice. I think that's a huge strength we have.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to check I've got questions coming through on the slide. I just want to check there's none on the floor, or if they're all coming through on here, that's fine. Okie dokie, that's fine. One that's come through Slido, any movement on the possibility of having a tax treaty with the US like the UK does? One for one of the ministers.
Yeah, I can't kind of go through the specifics of that, but what I would say, there's a political commitment came out from the economic strategy to publish a revised tax strategy that will talk about things alongside international relations, finding the balance on lots of treaties. There has to be two sides to that kind of conversation. So again, navigating that carefully, but there will be a revised tax strategy that will come forward in due course.
Excellent, thank you. We've got about 1 minute left. I just want to touch on transport links, because that's another sort of headwind that I think the summer has been particularly difficult for the Isle of Man for various reasons around travel links. So I'll just come to Russ and JD in terms of attracting skilled people to the island. Do you feel that there needs to be more done to create better business travel links to attract people and business to the Isle of Man?
I think, yes, we do need better travel links, and they need to be focused on routes that people want to use. Got here safely yesterday, no problems, right through with no delays, so that's fantastic. But in the summer when it's crunch time at the airports, we do seem to suffer significantly, and that does deter people coming. Really what you have to do is you have to start investing in those links. That there must be a way to make those links more robust, more reliable, and of a way that actually works for people to come here and do business.
Thank you, Russ. Go ahead, Kate.
I personally, it's a topic that I regularly suffer from. I currently live in the UK. My plan is at some point to move over here, but at the moment I'm travelling backwards and forwards. I've travelled over this morning. Again, I was delayed for an hour sat on the tarmac because we couldn't land in the Isle of Man. So it's that continuing issue for us, but not just in terms of delays, but of course the expense that comes with it as well, because flying from Liverpool, it's a 20-minute flight, and the cost of those flights are quite often quite extortionate. And that is really a big, I think, deterrent, and it will stop people from coming here. It's as I said, I regularly have these issues and have to try and navigate my way around timings, cost of flights. People who I know in the UK have talked about jobs over here, and it's one of the big issues. So I certainly think from a transport link perspective, something needs to be done.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. I think we're all very aware of the issues we have, and just trying to think of solutions. So I'll come to you, Mark. What role does government play in trying to solve these issues that we have at the moment?
Yeah, no, they are hugely important, and I don't want to downplay at all. I just want to say kind of two things. One, some of these issues are not unique to us, and certainly a lot of the disruption over the summer was actually across the broader aviation network, UK. Even this week, we've had problems at Gatwick, we've had problems at Heathrow, there's problems at NATS. So that there is post-pandemic a critical shortage of key labour in some areas that are required for the industry. Second thing, though, I say we absolutely can't lose sight of it. We have been working hard, so there has been investment into the airport, into skills. There has been direct investment into the routes. So if we go back 2 years ago, post-pandemic, we lost most of the London links. We had one carrier, one route. Government stepped in and underwrote the choice. So now we have Gatwick, City, Heathrow. Government also stepped in on the northwest to make sure there was variety across Liverpool and Manchester, and we'll keep doing that. But it's really important that, again, everyone in the community, I say we work well when we have a clear voice, just being clear what those needs are. So take the London City as an example. It's still quite underutilised from what probably we expected pre-pandemic. So we just have to find that balance, make sure we know what's needed, as we said before, what the critical routes are, and make sure we serve those. But we will keep working on them. It's a cross-government group working, sort of real government importance, it's of real political importance.
Oh, yeah, just quickly, Russ.
Yeah, just quickly to pick up on that. Post-pandemic, I think a lot of businesses have taken the Teams and Zoom dividend and, are used to that. And you've also got the pressures coming along with ESG, carbon footprints. So, business travel is becoming less, I think, across the globe. Still, face-to-face is very important, and people do it. But, that is one of the headwinds you're facing in trying to get investment into routes.
Yeah, completely agree. Our time is up. I just wanted to comment that there are some good, interesting comments and questions on the slider. So I'm sure Abby and the team will be collating all of those and making sure that those questions are answered for you. Just like to thank Mark, Kate, JD and Russ for an interesting panel session. Thank you.